G'day, I'm Nev Sweeney and this is Under the Choco Tree. Today I want to talk to you about something a little different. Quite often focus on growing food, and growing food is great, but at some stage we've got to cook it, and we want to cook it as sustainably and with the least amount of energy as we can manage. And so one of the things that we do is we cook using stored heat. When you put a pot onto the stove and you turn the gas or electricity or whatever underneath it on, you're pumping heat in the bottom, which boils water, cooks veggies. But as you pump energy in the bottom, the energy comes back out the top, so you need to keep putting more into it. What cooking with stored heat does is you heat the container up with whatever you want to cook inside it, and then you put it into a container once it reaches temperature. That keeps it at temperature for a longer period. We're talking wet cooking, soups, stews, casseroles, that sort of stuff. And you put all of your gear together in a pot. The best sort of pot has the smallest surface area per unit volume, which obviously is a sphere, but in this case we're looking at a short squat pot rather than something that looks like a fry pan or that's tall and skinny. So you put all of your gear in, you heat it up, get it to boiling, and depending upon the size of the stuff you're cooking, if it's rice or beans or something like that, you might need to only boil it for 5 minutes. If it's big lumps of beef or whatever, you might have to boil it for 10 or 15. But then what you do is you take it and you put it into the container, which then keeps that heat around it, and it basically you don't need to put any more energy into it. It's sort of like a slow cooker, but without having to plug it into the electricity. It just keeps the original heat that's in there and cooks it in that. So it's very efficient in terms of energy use, but it's also great for maintaining nutrients. It can't boil dry and wreck your food. Can't catch on fire and burn your house down. So it's the sort of thing that you can leave going and leave the house without any difficulty. There are a whole stack of different types of stored heat cookers, and I've seen it where in an emergency somebody just grabbed their pot, wrapped it in blankets and used that to keep the heat in. But if you want to be a little bit more prepared, a little bit more high tech, when I originally first started out doing this, I got myself a nice esky and filled it with polystyrene, and we used that a couple of times. One of the problems with that was it was a pretty old and disreputable looking esky, so I spent more time in the shed than it did being used. So I got myself a piece of furniture and turned it into a stored heat cooker, which I'll show you a bit later on. You can make them from scratch. This is one that my wife sewed up. It's basically 2 discs of fabric sewn together down the sides as well, filled with polystyrene balls. You make a nice little pillow that goes in the top. The pot goes in here, and it's got a drawstring. Pull it together, and it works reasonably well. I'll put the article on how to do it and the design, the template, down below in the description. But another easy and comparatively cheap way to do it is to keep an eye out for polystyrene boxes. You can quite often pick these up for nothing or for $1 or $2 from fruit and veggie purveyors. There are different sizes. I like this one, and all you do, and I'll do this in a sec, is get some polystyrene balls, put it into a couple of pillowcases, and then wrap the pot in those, close the lid, and away you go. There's not a huge amount to making a stored heat cooker like this. Get yourself a pillowcase, grab a bag of beanbag beans, that's left from a previous project. Now the thing is, you don't want any little kids around when you're doing this, because they have a tendency to get everywhere, and if they do and the kids inhale them, it can be really, really unpleasant. Apart from that, it's nice and easy. So it's just a case of running the beans into the pillowcase. It's a lot easier if you realise that it's the other side of the bag that's open. That's the best way to do it, is if you've got rather than the whole thing opened up, you've just got a small cut in one side. Hopefully they don't go everywhere. Now the thing is, you don't necessarily want the whole thing to be filled up like a nice fat pillow. You want it to be able to deform around the pot that you're going to use to keep the insulated material in contact with the pot and work better that way. Could probably do with a few more. Then how you close this once you've got enough in. If you are skilled in the art, obviously you could sew it across. I'm not. So I'll use a series of safety pins to stop the things from spilling out everywhere. Kind of like that, put it all the way around. So both of the pillowcases are now filled and our stored heat cooker is ready to go. See, there's the pot, the bottom pillowcase in place with quite a few, it's probably a half to 2/3 full of the beans. The top one has somewhat less than that, and it fits over to form a nice insulated cover. Then the lid goes on and we're cooking. This piece of furniture is in our front room where you walk in, and it just looks like a blanket box, but you lift it up and it's got pillowcases filled with polystyrene beads and polystyrene sheeting to insulate the containers that we use. Just last night I used it to cook up a load of beans. Works very, very well. Doesn't look too bad, and being inside means that it gets used more often than the old one made out of an esky that wound up spending more time in the shed than inside. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Please leave a like or a comment down below or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.